patients. They were all huddled on the floor, all crunched together with their hands over their heads, and we were just kind of on top of them. We were scared there. I mean, at least I know I can't speak for anybody else, but I can speak for myself. I was terrified. I looked at my partner and I said, we need to get out of here. When we pulled out of there, I hear him scream through the front, "I'm getting flagged. I'm being flagged." So I open up the back doors and I'm like, "What's going on?" He's like, "This guy jumped in front of the ambulance. He said we need to help this lady." So I'm like, "All right." So we jumped out, and this young lady, she was lying half on the street, half on the sidewalk. And Len and I were able to just move her over to the side a little bit, and we saw that our whole backside looked like it was just torn off. From the shoulder blades all the way down to like the top of the thigh. It looked like everything was just ripped right off. We didn't know it at the time, but we found out later on that she was hit by the landing gear of the second plane, and it went right down and ripped off half her back. As we're driving, she was screaming out in agony. I remember seeing the 3 or 4 other patients in the ambulance, and you can see them that they're scared. They're all crying, they're all looking around and they're looking at me. Here I am, 21-year-old kid, what do I know? And I remember the woman on the stretcher. I go down and she's awake and she's looking at me and she's screaming. She's like, "It hurts. I'm hurt. Help me. Somebody please help me." And I remember just getting down on my knee and just holding her hand and getting close to her. I'm like, "It's all right. It's okay. We got you." I'm like, "I'm here now. I'm going to get you to the hospital. We're going to take care of you." There was a bunch of doctors just waiting for us at the door. And they start grabbing some of the other patients that we brought in and other people. And we're like, no, forget those. Like, this one. You got to take this one in right here. Just handing the patient over. It's like, okay, I've done my part. I did my part. I did I did the best that I could for her. And I brought it to people that can help her a lot more than I can. I really thought I died. Here I am alone. This is not possible. I'm running back. A large chunk of that plane was stuck in the office doorway. The air pressure was so great it was sucking everything out. It looks like a demolition crew came and just ripped the entire floor apart. Every wall is flattened. Every piece of furniture is mangled. Hiding under the desk. It looks like somebody took a giant bag of cement and threw it in the air. The jet fuel is smelling so profusely. The sound was so deafening that my ears popped. I got temporarily deaf. All the cables that were hanging in the ceiling dropped, and the short-circuiting the sprinkler system came on, and part of the floor collapsed. And it's hovering like this, right over the desk. If I don't get burned, well, then I'll get electrocuted. If I don't get electrocuted and burned, well, then tomorrow's a brand new day. Tomorrow's a brand new day. For a cleaner, more sustainable future, America's plastic makers are investing billions of dollars. When the second tower got hit, that was a terrifying moment.
course, now you realize this is no accident. This is intentional, and that changes your whole perception of what you're dealing with now. One of my thoughts was going through my head is stay calm. You have to make, I knew I was going to be having to make some very serious decisions involving people's lives, which is my job, which I'm trained for. I mean, they trained very well for on the fire department. And I wanted to make it with as clear a head as I could. So I had to avoid that little panicky thing that you go through with that first. I was climbing the stairs in the North Tower, and our orders were to report to the 23rd floor. So I'm looking around the floor, I'm looking for this chief I'm supposed to report to. And I hear chatter. I hear people talking. And of course, I'm curious, nobody's supposed to be there. And I open the door, and there's two people inside the stairway. There was an injured secretary, a woman, and her boss stayed with her. This is an incredibly heroic guy. I wish I could remember his name. But he stayed and trying to get his injured secretary out of the building. And they were in Stairway C. No, they were alone. There was nobody else in Stairway C, and I was worried about them. So I told them, go to Stairway B. The fire department's in Stairway B. They will help you. And they were frozen. They couldn't move. They just froze. And then I yelled at them. I felt bad, but I yelled at them. I said, that's Stairway B. I'm not going to tell you again, like that. But I had to do it, because I had to startle them to get them out of that. They were in like a funk, and finally they listened to me. They went over to Stairway B, and they survived. They got out. So that was good.
To help anybody, you got to start triaging. You try to determine the injury at a second moment so that the unit coming behind you can immediately treat that person. Green tag for minor injuries, you can understand everything. Then you have the red tag for immediate. And then when we get to the deceased, that means no care needed. At this time, this person is presumed dead. I was underneath the towers, going from area to area. I did not see any living person on the ground. Everybody was deceased. So going past, you just rip the tags off and left deceased, until I ran into that one person. I put deceased, which is a black tag. And she says, I'm not dead. Call my daughter. But she didn't know what I knew, that she didn't see what I see. Her head did not hit the ground, or I couldn't see that the head, but of course the hair was still intact. She looked like an office personnel. She looked like maybe a woman that was on the plane. And the makeup. But what I saw below the torso was complete crushed, disfigured, bent. lady must have came down feet first. You can't take. Stop! Stop! I'm not dead. I could have done something immediately to help her, but I was panicking myself. I was dealing with death myself. Even though I did not fear death, or I wasn't thinking about death, but I saw death, and I saw death, and I saw death, and until that she would not survive another couple of minutes. So I lied. He said, "You're okay. This is preliminary. This is just, I'm indirect. I tore the wrong thing off. Relax. They're coming. They're coming. They're coming. Don't worry about what I just did." I had to be conscious about what I was saying, and that I was lying. But I wasn't lying in the fact of her condition. I was lying in the fact that I did think she was dead. And that black tag stayed with me. It took me 3 years to push it back, or from this cortex part of my brain to the frontal part of my brain, the memory, or put it somewhere with the psychiatrist and the clinician that helped me move her around so that she's not in the mind's eye in the daytime or in the nighttime or at any time. The human body or the human mind is not positioned, or the brain can never be positioned to deal with tragedy of another human being. It just reminds you that could be your mother, this is your father, this is your family, this is a human being. You don't lie to the dying.
I came out on the 44th floor because that's where our stairwell ends. And there was panic and bedlam, and it was pitch black. And then all of a sudden, in this darkness, is this voice. He was singing, and I think the singing distracted everybody, that they stopped in their tracks to see why he was singing or where he was singing from, and it calmed everybody down. And then he said these words. He said, "Today is a proud day to be an American." It was Rick Riscola, our head of security. Rick was so concerned for many years about the security and safety of everybody in the World Trade Center. It had been attacked before, and he was certain it would happen again. He did predict that they would come, if they came again, that they would come from the air. And it's very hard to protect people when they come from the air. So the only protection would be to teach them how to get out in case a catastrophe happened. Rick had them redo the stairwells, repaint them, make sure there was lighting so everybody could see where we were going. And 4 times a year, we walked from 70 all the way down to the Sky Lobby to get out of the building. at first people would just assume this is over the top, it was exaggerated, do we really need to do this? I mean, in my mind, my favorite line was, lightning never strikes the same place twice. So after 93, I didn't even think about it because I was like, no one's ever going to attack the same building again. That day, things were on fire. Things are blowing up, and he really was able to refocus everybody pretty quickly and disperse the crowds to the proper stairwells to get them out of there. So seeing Rick was probably like seeing your guardian angel when I saw him on 44. I wasn't nervous at that point. I really wasn't.
Cut his big camera. Cut his big camera. Tell your grandchildren. You were there. You were there.
I wasn't emotional on that day. I was not frozen in fear. I wasn't thinking horrible thoughts. My mind, thankfully, protected me from absorbing any carnage. Now, my mind blocked anything that might have been really ugly out there. I don't remember, other than this grayness. Others died and I didn't. I wasn't having any of that in my mind yet. Again, I cannot explain why. I keep wondering, am I cold-hearted? I don't think so. I think I'm tender and compassionate when I need to be. Odd.
I was stuck on the 81st floor. I crawled the entire length of the loans department to the lounge, in the computer room, in the communication room, and that's the farthest I could have gone. Because one lousy sheetrock wall stood firm. It's one wall. That period of waiting was the most painful thing you would ever imagine. That period of just waiting, hoping that somebody is going to come to get you. And I'm crying out to this invisible God that I've hurt so much.
From the 84th floor, I led a group of people down the stairs, and we arrived on the 81st floor, me in the lead. As I arrived there, a heavy-set woman came up and stopped me. We've just come off a floor in flames and smoke, and we've got to go higher. And of course, I'm stopped now and can't get past her, and bump in behind me comes the rest of my team, if you like. So now there's this group of us, 9, 10 people on the 81st floor landing, who are now beginning the debate, listening to her and starting to discuss, do we go up, do we go down, what do we do now?
I'm behind of a wall, and I'm crying out, wait for me, don't leave me to die.
What I heard was something like, help, help, I'm buried, is anyone there? I can't breathe. Kind of, again, sobered up and said, okay, I've got a job to do here, and my flashlight back on again. And as I squeezed onto that floor sideways, I had this very, very clear memory of everybody on that landing turning around and starting to go up the stairs. So I started toward the stranger's voice.
I can only hear that voice faintly. I had my hand through that hole, and I'm trying, please, please, my hand is here. Turn to your left. As I hear a little bit, his voice is walking away. His voice is moving away from me. No, 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 come back, towards your right. Come back, towards your left. Come straight, straight, straight now. As I can hear his voice closer, closer, sharper. Look down, look down, look down. here I am, with my hand, waving towards him. When that light flashed in my hand, all hope was there. Somebody, this person with his flashlight, whoever it is, somebody's gonna rescue me. I'm gonna live. It was that hope. That feeling of knowing that, you know what, I'm gonna live. That feeling of knowing that you're gonna live, that somebody is here to take you home. I'm gonna get to see my children again. I'm gonna be reconciled with my wife again. I'm gonna live. They left me here to die, but I'm gonna go home. And this man really did that. Rescued me so I could go home.
Hallelujah, I've been saved, he said. One thing I gotta know, do you know Jesus Christ? And that was a very strange thing to hear at that time, and I wasn't ready for a philosophical discussion, so I stammered out a rather pathetic reply. I go to church every Sunday. That was the best I could do to that question. And come on, we got work to do here. So there's a lot of debris to the right and debris to the left of me, and this immovable wall between us. And I told him that the only way out of there is for you to come up this wall. So he tried once, and I missed him. I said, you must do this. And over the wall he came, and then his weight on me pushed the desk over. We fell back onto a pile of debris, and he gave me a big kiss. And he got up and says, well, what are you doing? Fix his jacket and his tie. And he stretched his hand, he says, Brian Clark. I said, Stanley Prindant. He said, I'm Stanley. He said, we'll be brothers for life. And I said, well, I have no siblings. I said, we can be brothers. And then I noticed I had a puncture wound on my right palm. And Stanley also had a puncture wound on his palm. And I'm the one who did it. I put our hands together and said, we'll be blood brothers for life. And we made our way off the floor back to the 81st floor landing. I shone the light down, and I took that. I didn't see flames. I saw some smoke coming up, and I took that.
When we got down to about the 22nd floor, the integrity of the building was really starting to deteriorate. And then there was cracks starting in the walls, and we were like, holy crap, we have to get out of here. And we really started to pick up the pace, like almost running. And all I kept thinking is, this building's not taking me. I'm going home to my kids. So I kept going and going. And when we got to the bottom floor, we were yelling, we're here, and some people were clapping, and they're like, all right, we're right behind you. When we emerged out of the building, there was a sense of relief that we were safe. They ushered us across the street. My little group, we sat down on the curb, and they were triaging right behind us. They were carrying very wounded people behind us, laying them down, trying to triage what they could do. When we looked up and saw the burning on our building, my first thought was, this is coming down. I'm not going to die here on the street. I just got out of that building. I have to get out of here. Some of the people we work with encountered Rick on one of the lower floors as they were leaving the building. Rick was heading up the stairs. And they said, Rick, come with us. And he's like, no, I have to do one more sweep to make sure all our people are safe. He could have gotten out, but he chose to go back up. Well, I knew that Rick was doing what Rick was destined to do, and that was get everybody out of that building. And knowing Rick, you knew he wasn't leaving until that last person was out.
The ash filled the air and blocked the sun. And very strangely, as we went down Broadway, and it wasn't densely populated, all of a sudden Stanley was gone. I'm looking around, wondering where he is, and this feeling washed over me, like, look, did I just imagine this? Was Stanley some sort of a guardian angel? Like, I had real confused doubts about what had just transpired. I learned later from Stanley that he had commandeered a guy in a pickup truck and told him, you drive me to Brooklyn. Apparently the guy did.
Brian said to me later on, had he made the choice to go back up like the others, he would have died. But there was something in that scream that held him to help me. So every time I tell this man, Brian, thank you for saving my life, he says, no, Stan, thank you. That had you not screamed, I would have gone back up, I would have died.
Being as young as I was at the time, that day definitely changed me. You know, there are things that I live with to this day that still haunt my dreams from it. You know, when I start thinking about on how bad it could be, I keep thinking of that patient that we picked up. The woman on the stretcher, we didn't think that she was going to make it through at all. But we found out a couple weeks later that she was still alive.
This is Mag from Magnificent. I got him last night from a friend of my fiance's. He is so much fun. Normally there's only white blankets here, and then I got Mag last night too. That it made me realize that color has been absent in my environment, and it showed up when it really needed to be there. So.
And I found out later on her name is Debbie. And I remember going to the hospital to go see her. And they walk us over to her room, and she was still intubated at the time, but she was sitting up and conscious, and she's looking at us, and she see her moving her hand, and she's like, hey, it's them. And she was pointing to us. And all the people that we walked by and waited with was her parents, her fiance, and the rest of her family. They came over to us, and they were just hugging us. You know, it was very emotional for Orlando and I.
And Frank Ruma was the guy who drove the EMT truck that allowed me to get on it. Yeah.
The few times that I was able to see her in the hospital, she was always upbeat. She's like, don't worry, I'm going to get better. And throughout my time, she has been an inspiration for me to get me out of my dark places, knowing the fact that I gave someone back their family. I helped bring that person back home.
Our orders were to go upstairs in the North Tower for search and rescue. And we heard a loud noise outside. And I see Billy Burke walking towards me. He's got a funny look on his face. And I look at him and I says, "Is that what I thought it was?" Thinking that a piece of our building fell off. And he just looks at me and he says, "The South Tower's just collapsed." Knowing what that meant. That right next door to us, thousands of people were just killed. Some of our friends too. And I did the quick calculations in my mind and I says, all right, if that one can go, this one can go, it's time for us to get out of here. And my guys didn't react, they balked. They didn't want to leave. And I said, let's go. It's time to go. So we start our retreat down the B stairway of the North Tower. And I just be whispering into Billy Butler's ear, says, "Billy, can you move a little faster?" And the collapse of the North Tower starts with us still inside.